So in the last video, we went over how to create a basic form in HTML. And so remember the kind of three main parts to this are the actual form HTML tag, the inputs and labels will kind of label the actual what the inputs are for. So label name ties to this input, label email ties to this input, and the button submission. So a button that allows us to submit. And so you can either submit by clicking it, or if you hit enter in the form, it will also submit the form. So if I type Michael and then blah 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 at blah blah blah.com and hit enter, it will also submit the form. So that's great and all, but this isn't a server-side class, so we won't actually write a server that will collect these values and do stuff with them. This is all focused on the client, and the client means that we're going to use some JavaScript. So I have a JavaScript file here. I'm going to make a script tag for it. Source equals forms.js. And we're going to see how to actually collect those values and use them in our JavaScript. So the first thing to do is we want to actually make a event listener to listen to when this form submits. So we learned about click events in one of the modules where we could hook on to something, and when we clicked it, it would do some sort of bound of code for us. But in this case, we're going to grab the form and listen to a new event called submit. So document.query selector, and we're going to pass it form. We're going to add an event listener for submit. We're going to give it a function, and we're going to listen to an event because there's something special about forms. So a normal form submission happens like so. If we hit submit, the normal behavior of a form is to refresh and attempt to, or it's going to take these values, attempt to send them to some server, refresh the page. That is the default behavior of a form. And that default behavior is great when you have a server ready to catch it, but if you're going to use JavaScript, you don't want that. So the event for a submission, the first thing we want to do, so make sure you pass the event parameter, is call this method, event.preventDefault. This says, hey, take the event, the submission event, and prevent its default behavior. So prevent default, parentheses, calls the method. So now watch what happens when we try it. We hit submit and nothing happens. And so that's because of our event.preventDefault. And just to prove to you that it's because of this code here, let's console log some code. And so submit. So now our event listener is listening to that submission, it is logging a message, and it is preventing the default behavior of the form, which is to try to submit the values to a server and refresh the page. And so that's the first step. We want to always make sure we grab the form in particular and submit and listen to a submission on it. So now you might be thinking, hey, what if we have multiple forms? Maybe this form is add a to-do to my to-do list. And so now we have two forms. Remember, query selector only grabs the first one. It's not going to affect the second one. So how can we rectify that? Well, it's very often that we'll have IDs in our forms. So maybe this is just a registration form, and this is a to-do list form. And instead of that, we can do hashtag registration form and make a new query selector for the to-do list form. In this case, since we only have a couple forms, it's better just to add different query selectors. We don't necessarily want the same batch of code to happen for each form. So to-do list form, and now both of these will be affected correctly. Check and check. Awesome. So we've hooked up to the two different forms with query selector and add event listener submit. We gave it a function. Make sure you remember to pass the event parameter so that you stop it from refreshing the page, and you call the event.prevent default. That's part of stopping it from refreshing the page. But then once we've done that, now we can finally start accessing the values of the forms. So we'll learn about that next video.